I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical, in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow, you a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz, let it brush ya. Bald eagle clutch.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. My name is Randy. I'm with the man they call Tomko. How's it going, sir?
I am Tomko-rific, sir.
Tomko-rific.
In fact, it's a Tuesday.
It is Tomko Tuesday, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, god damn. I told you someday that would pay off, right?
Yes. We're here. Today is the day.
I mean, it only took about 4 or 5 years, but finally, it's a Tomko Tuesday, and here we are. Finally. You should all think you're lucky stars because we're covering the Leprechaun franchise. Did you know there's 8 movies in the Leprechaun franchise?
Yeah, I do.
You do now.
I felt every single one of them going up my ass.
Oh, boy.
My God.
That's an image. Yes. They are a pot of something at the end of the rainbow, these Leprechaun movies. And boy, we're gonna cover them all for you. It's gonna be so great. Usually we have a lot of segments, but I think we're just gonna go straight to the movies because there's 8 of these bad devils.
Or as my co-host Jake said, about 7 more than there should have been.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So we've got Leprechaun 1. What did you think of Leprechaun 1, sir?
You know, for what it was, I'm gonna go back to that old line from a Kevin Smith stand-up special. Stupid, but mostly harmless.
Yeah, it's the first one is stupid fun. It's Jennifer Aniston's first film role, and she's fully Jennifer Aniston in this movie.
Yes, she is.
She's got all the Jennifer Aniston mannerisms that you know and love.
The beta of Jennifer Aniston was in this movie.
Yeah, she looks the same now as she did then, which is crazy to me. Like, how many virgins are you killing to drink their blood to stay so useful? I mean,
good point.
Yeah. I mean, because obviously, if you're Jennifer Aniston, it's not hard for you to get a virgin. You just have to show up and be like, "Hey, come here." Okay,
Just go to Comic-Con.
Yeah, jeez.
You can buy them in bulk.
Yeah, you can. Apologies to all the virgins out there. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Well, you should know better, virgins. I mean, you guys are the first ones to go in like all of these movies. You're always getting sacrificed. You're always the subject of some ritual. Get over it.
Come on. You just got to follow the rule of if it's too good to be true, it is.
Yeah.
If Jennifer Aniston comes up to you while you're cosplaying as some anime character and says, "Hey, why don't you come back to my place?" Something's up.
Yeah. If she walks up to you and says, "Yeah, Vegeta is my favorite Dragon Ball Z character," something's screwy.
Yes. So you should know better, virgins.
Yeah. Get informed, would you? So she's Jennifer Aniston in this movie. Her character's name is Tori, who's moving to a house. And she's got a useless dad who barely matters. That's the thing about horror movies. They're full of useless dads. Like, why are there even dad characters in these movies? I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, every once in a while you'll have something that's at least important to the plot, like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And for the third one, in fact.
Oh, geez. What are you, sharpshooting me?
Well, just being a contrarian prick.
Okay. Useless dads.
It's my thing.
It is your thing. You always got to be that guy, don't you? Oh, my God. So it starts off, I mean, I'll hand it to him. They didn't try to hold off on some big reveal of the Leprechaun, build up to his first appearance. No, he's right there in the first scene. You're either with it or you're out of it right off the bat. And he's an annoying, cackling character that speaks in bad rhymes and one-liners. He's like a miniature version of Freddy Krueger, really.
Essentially, yeah. That is definitely the vibe that they were going for, was the funny, cute, annoying Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he's
cranked up to 11.
Yeah, he's got kind of a burnt face, too, for whatever reason. He can do pretty much whatever he wants, whenever he wants to do it. So, in this movie, leprechauns are afraid of 4-leaf clovers. That's how you stop a leprechaun.
That logic doesn't jive up with all of the St. Patrick's Day greeting cards I've seen throughout my life.
No, not at all. Like everything I knew about a leprechaun was, you know what? I think four-leaf clovers are their jam.
Yeah, apparently not.
The creator of Leprechaun, Mark Jones, who
Did he apologize?
he did not apologize. He did not. He said researching a film about leprechauns wasn't really that easy.
What? You had research on this movie?
What I found was that leprechauns are the offspring of evil spirits and demented fairies, and that there's no real way to kill them. So what I ended up doing was mixing historical facts with things like the four-leaf clover stopping him, which I made up. What we basically have here is a horror comic book, the kind of thing Walt Disney might have done if he had been a little bent. By the way, Mark Jones spent about 10 years, well, no, not 10 years. He wrote the script in 1985. He spent about 6 years trying to get it made. So that's...
I thought you were going to say he spent 10 years writing it, and I was going to walk off the show.
He did get the inspiration for this movie by the Lucky Charms commercials, and I guarantee you, the line at the end of the movie when the leprechaun gets his, the line is, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms." I guarantee that's what popped into his mind, and he's like, I should write a movie about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything as great as that, because I'm willing to bet. You said this came out in what, 94?
The first one came
Yeah.
out in the early 93, I think.
93, so he would have written it in 87. That was the height of the slasher movie craze, when every slasher movie was centering around a holiday. I guarantee you, he was sitting around his studio apartment, brushing off Doritos from his chest, trying to figure out a hook for a movie. What holiday hasn't been done already? St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
That's how he came up with the movie.
Yeah, this came out in January 1993. And he wrote it in 1985.
Yeah, I'm thinking my logic is going to hold up on this one.
It stars Warwick Davis, who's the leprechaun in all these movies. He was also Willow in...
Yeah, he was Wicket in Star Wars. He was Willow in Willow.
Yeah, which is a great movie.
Yeah, great movie, but boy, did he burn through a lot of goodwill.
With these movies?
Yeah, he had some political capital coming into these, and he used up all of it.
Oh, my favorite kill in this movie, the dumb character Ozzy, who at one point swallows one of the coins, which becomes a plot point in this movie. And by the way, one of the sequels, it's a major plot point. He swallows one of the gold pieces, and the leprechaun's deal is, oh, I want me gold. He's a greedy little bastard, and he wants his dumb gold at all times. So Ozzy and his little boy companion, like I don't know who this kid is, why he's hanging around weird men, but they take some of the gold to a coin shop, and the guy's like going to check it out and appraise it or whatever. So the leprechaun breaks into that place and bites him in the kneecaps, which is why you should fear leprechauns and small children, because that's what they can do, bite you in the kneecap. And then the leprechaun grabs a fucking pogo stick and pogos him to death. And I've never seen a kill like that before, and I never will again, so thank you, Leprechaun, for that.
And I know that you're not supposed to take these movies seriously. Obviously, it was played for laughs, but so fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's got snappy dialogue, too. Like, at one point, this boy with big biceps and an even bigger mullet that Jennifer Aniston has got a crush on, they're at a diner, and he's like the heroic boy in the movie. And he's eating this meatloaf, and this is the actual line of dialogue. I wrote it down. He says, "Hey, Tori, you look a little skinny. You should eat some meatloaf. I have plenty." Somebody wrote that, folks.
Took him 6 years to sell this script, huh?
Yeah. You should eat some meatloaf. He's like, whatever we do, we got to keep that meatloaf line in. It's relatable.
I'm trying to think of some joke about eating meatloaf, the pop singer, but nothing tasteful is coming to mind.
So there's conveniently a clover patch next to the house where the leprechaun has been stuck for all those years because he was thrown into a crate with a 4-leaf clover on the top. Ozzy, of course, brushes the 4-leaf clover off. Leprechaun gets out. There's also this cringeworthy line of dialogue as Jennifer Aniston's looking for a 4-leaf clover in this patch of green stuff. She's like, I'm never going to find a 4-leaf clover. And Ozzy says, you can find a 4-leaf clover if you just believe. And she fucking finds one right after he says that. And I'm like, fuck you, movie. And then Alex, the boy, who's like a real great Dennis the Menace kid, wraps the 4-leaf clover around a piece of chewed gum, uses a slingshot to hurl that clover ball right down the leprechaun's throat. And he starts gagging and choking and falls down the well, and he's melting, and then they blow the well up, and that's the end.
At one point, I was kind of thinking that this movie was almost borderline offensive because, let's face it, there are a lot of negative stereotypes about Irish people that still persist to this day.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's fine. That's no big deal. You know, speaking as somebody of Irish and Scottish descent, we can take it. Not that big a deal. But then it just went full bull with the offense when they were explaining Ozzy's motivation for wanting the gold. I mean, it's obvious that he was born with some mental handicaps, I think is the only polite way to say it.
Sure.
I'm not sure. And he wants to have a surgery so that he can fix his brain and be normal. It's like, oh my God, bad message, movie.
Yeah, and his friend Alex, the kid, knows that there's no such surgery and still encourages his friend anyways. I'm like, well, you're a bad friend too.
Exactly.
Because you need to tell him that, hey, guess what? That's not a thing.
And then Jennifer Aniston is just so, or at least her character is so unlikable in this movie.
Yeah, she completely dislikes everything. She doesn't want to be there. She's kind of a valley girl from the big city.
Just a spoiled little bitch.
Yep, that's what she is, and she remains that throughout the entire movie, really.
Exactly.
And she's appropriately embarrassed about this movie too. The fact that she was ever in it.
Yes, you heard about her interview with Howard Stern. I can't remember who it was that she was dating at the time because I have more important things in my life than to keep up on the romantic trials and tribulations of people who make believe for a living. But her...
You do? Don't you have a nerd podcast called Jake and Tom Conquer the World? I thought that was your life.
I'm more interested in the stories. I don't give a fuck who Christopher Nolan's dating.
As you should be, sir. Okay, continue.
Whoever it was that she was dating was flipping through the channels while she was in the kitchen or something like that, and he stumbled upon the first Leprechaun movie, and he grabbed her, made her sit down and watch it. Almost like he was punishing her for her first major work as an actress.
Yeah.
And you know what? She deserved worse.
I'm sure he loved it the whole time. And
I would.
Yeah. And honestly, guess what? Most of these actors, a lot of actors start off in horror movies. So,
yeah.
Or they've got one under their belt.
I mean, even Tom Hanks was in that god-awful Dungeons and Dragons movie. Kevin Bacon was in that first Friday the 13th movie. Patricia Arquette was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Paul Rudd.
Unless you were in Leprechaun.
Yeah. Paul Rudd was in a Halloween. McConaughey and Zellweger were in a Texas Chainsaw.
Which we're going to have to talk about one of these days.
Yes, absolutely. I think we'll get to that around Halloween because that's, yeah.
Oh, no, it's got to be summer.
Okay.
It's got to be when the heat is at its peak.
When everyone's burnt out of their mind.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only way that podcast will be palatable, I believe.
I think so,
When everybody's already insane.
We're not quite there yet, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, we just started all this C virus bullshit, so, we got a long way to go, maybe.
Yeah.
Line producer David Price thought the Leprechaun franchise had a long way to go, too. He said the franchise was different. The Leprechaun can go anywhere because of who he is. The next film could take him into the city or back to Ireland. This is a type of thing that can go on forever.
Fuck you, line producer.
Right? So now we get Leprechaun 2. And by the way, continuity doesn't matter with the Leprechaun movies.
No, not at all. No,
Oh.
I don't think it even matters in the same movie, let alone throughout the entire series.
Yes. So in the first movie, it was actually established that he was 600 years old. In Leprechaun 2, if you do the math, he's actually 2,000 years old. And you're like, oh, what happened? Oh, I guess we just don't care. So Leprechaun 2 opens on the Leprechaun's 1,000th birthday. And for whatever magical hoop-de-hoo, it's on that birthday the Leprechaun can finally claim a bride. And all that needs to happen for him to get a bride, his bride has to sneeze 3 times without someone saving her soul by saying, God bless you. So whenever you're out there in the world, this is why you should always say, God bless you to any of those sneezing fucks out there, because you're saving them from being someone else's slave wife, and that's a good thing.
Will a gesundheit count?
Oh, boy, I don't know. It was literally God bless you in the movie, so I don't think so. I think you have to say God bless you.
Oh, all right.
Well, listen, we can write some hate mail to whoever wrote Leprechaun 2 and be like, hey, clarification. I have a problem with Leprechaun 2. In Leprechaun 2, you said that God bless you, but can you say gesundheit? Does that work?
You know what? I would love to get that response. I think that might be my peak as a podcaster if that happens.
Okay, let's find out who wrote this movie then. And then we'll see if he's on Twitter, and we'll send that fucking message.
Every day
Until he responds. Leprechaun 2, also known as Leprechaun 2 and One Wedding and Lots of Funerals. Oh, that's fucking clever, isn't it? Written by Tori Meyer and Al Septian, and they don't have any other credits. So I guess that's a no-no on that. Guess you'll.
I wonder if this is like one of those Alan Smithy things.
Could be. Could be. So for whatever reason, the Leprechaun has a slave, and the Leprechaun wants to marry his slave's daughter. But at the last minute, the slave says, God bless you, to save her from being married to this horrible creature. So the Leprechaun curses the descendants of the slave and says on his next 1,000th birthday, he'll claim the fairest descendant as his bride. And now you have the plot of this movie. We cut to L.A. on St. Patty's Day. We have a Clint Howard sighting, which is amazing. We have a young, attractive blonde named Bridget, played by Siobhan Durkin. Tomko, this is our second Siobhan Durkin movie. Our first.
It is?
Oh, it is. You could go back in the archives and check out Tammy and the T-Rex. She played Wendy, the bitch that snitched on poor Paul Walker that got the bully after him.
I find it hard to believe that anybody associated with a Leprechaun movie is completely forgettable.
Yeah, I barely remember her, but I remember her because she was the blonde. She had a nose ring, and she saw Paul Walker climbing into Tammy's bedroom window and immediately ran off to snitch on him. She's dating a dude named Cody, who's scheming Uncle Morty, dupes tourists into taking these horrible dark side tours of Hollywood. And Bridget happens to be the descendant of the slave man from a long time ago. Uncle Morty in this movie is delightful, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's absolutely the runaway star with this.
Seinfeld fans, he played Jack Klompus on Seinfeld. Siobhan Durkin is an attractive young lady who is a horrible actress. So in this movie, some random street bum frees the leprechaun from the inside of a tree that was given to the Irish from Ireland by Harry Houdini.
Okay.
The bum frees him, and immediately the leprechaun comes out. He doesn't know what a quarter is, but he makes pop culture references like no one's business, saying things like it's finger looking good as he bites off a man's finger, you know.
How did Harry Houdini gift Ireland a 1,000-year-old tree?
I don't know. Well, he was magic, so that's how. That's how. It was.
Okay.
It was his greatest trick, you see. and how this tree ended up in L.A. from Ireland. Like, who transplanted this stupid tree? Like, I don't know, whatever. Cody's dating Bridget, but there's this dude named Ian that wants in on it, which brings me to my favorite kill of this movie. Bridget blows off Ian, who's trying to get in her pants, and the leprechaun makes Ian see an image of Bridget at some point, and Bridget takes off her top, and Ian thinks he sees boobs, and he goes closer and closer, but they're actually spinning mower blades instead of boobs.
You know what? We've all been there, fellas.
We've all encountered a bear trap in our lives.
We've all done stupid things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morty, for whatever reason, has a book of leprechauns, and they read, after Cody is framed for the murder of touchy-feely hands, they read that wrought iron is the only thing that can kill a leprechaun. So that's his
What about four-leaf clovers?
No, not this time, sorry. So then they have a bright idea to do a drinking contest with the leprechaun in a bar for whatever reason.
Okay, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So Uncle Morty tries to get the leprechaun drunk, gets him drunk. Leprechaun gets wasted and just runs away. He smashes a bottle over Morty's head and just runs away. Like, nice plan. They didn't even do anything. Like,
again, the Irish stereotypes in these movies is not even subtle.
No, not at all.
Gets drunk and then hits somebody over the head with the empty bottle.
Right, yeah. At the end of the movie, Morty catches the leprechaun in a wrought iron safe, but then invokes the clause. Apparently, there's a clause. If you catch a leprechaun, you get 3 wishes.
And this, I'm sorry, this is the best kill of the movie.
Okay. Take it away, then. This is your favorite.
Well, Morty wishes for the leprechaun's gold, and bound by raw iron, the leprechaun has no choice but to grant that wish. However, rather than handing it to him, he makes it appear in Morty's belly, which is painfully distended under the weight of all of those gold coins. And then I think he has to wish the leprechaun out of the safe.
Yes.
And then he has to wish for the gold to go back to him. And rather than having it magically disappear and having his belly healed, he basically has it ripped through his belly, kind of like a gold arcade token version of Alien.
Yes. Wow, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think that's the best kill probably in the entire series.
Cody finds out that the leprechaun cannot, for whatever reason, because we're making shit up as we go along, the leprechaun can't kill him as long as he has a coin. Cody is like invincible. You can't be killed. At one point in the bar, there was a little leprechaun man. There was a bunch of people dressed up as leprechauns, and they were handed out milk chocolate coins. And at the end of the movie, Cody fools the leprechaun with a milk chocolate coin and stabs him with wrought iron by saying, "Have you had your iron today?" And the leprechaun explodes, and he gets his girlfriend back. And the leprechaun doesn't get to have a litter of leprechaun babies like he wanted. But now the leprechaun is dead, and Cody's uncle is dead, and he's still wanted for murder that was never wrapped up. So happy ending? I don't know.
Good enough ending.
Yeah, Leprechaun 1, definitely better than Leprechaun 2.
Yeah, and the law of diminishing returns is just going to become more and more painfully apparent as we go down this rabbit hole.
Are you really? Because I liked Leprechaun 3 quite a bit. I think I like this one better than all of them.
You know, I can't even remember Leprechaun 3. You're going to have to remind me. These movies are... The only thing I remember about them is they're fucking annoying.
Leprechaun 3 was in Las Vegas.
Okay, yes. I remember it had the DJ from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in it. Yes, okay.
Yep.
It's coming back.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, we have, and you know what? I just realized that woman was the DJ from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Damn. I probably should have recognized that. Leprechaun 3 was the highest selling direct-to-video Yeah, the highest selling direct-to-video of 1995. This is it.
Really?
This is the cream of the crop. Leprechaun 3. Yes. Believe it or not.
I remember 1995. I'm pretty sure there were better things to watch than this.
Sorry, you're wrong. This was it.
Wow.
You were
okay.
You were jaded and bitter even then.
Very much so, yes.
Little Tom Coe was like, I'll never watch that Leprechaun 3.
No.
So, Leprechaun in Las Vegas. It all starts when a one-eyed, one-handed man tries to sell his good luck charm at the thrift shop. He gets $20 for it. It's a stone statue of a leprechaun. The man tells the owner of the shop not to take off the medallion or even touch it that's around this statue's neck. Oh, well, the stupid owner does it anyways, and the leprechaun becomes flesh and blood. Wah, wah, wah. And then we see a woman named Tammy, played by Lee Armstrong. Here's how rough Hollywood must be. You have Lee Armstrong and the most watched rental of 1995, and she is as beautiful and flawless as anyone you've ever seen. She's perfectly charming in this movie, and yet you never see her again in any other movie. So that sucks. But her car's broke down on the side of the road, and Scott, this boy that's driving through to go to college in California, he had to stop in Sin City. He stops and decides to help her. And Scott is played by John Katniss, who went on to write the movie Flight and win an Academy Award. So good for him. So this one is wild, really. There's a bunch of rules you find out in this one because the rules constantly change. You find out if you have a leprechaun's gold coin, you can make one wish. You find out if you get bit by a leprechaun, you turn into a leprechaun. You also find out that a leprechaun poops out green poop. So
Again, that's... I think that might actually be the most realistic part of all of these movies because, I've had some belly problems.
So my favorite kill in this movie, the leprechaun makes Loretta, who is the DJ from Texas Chainsaw 2, she wants to be beautiful. And he kind of takes that away by making her butt, boobs, and lips expand until she completely explodes.
You know what? I think we've all seen some ladies and gentlemen that overdo it with Botox. So again, it's not completely outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I actually like this one quite a bit. I thought the characters were like sweet and innocent and I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know.
Honestly, by this point, I was starting to go numb.
You were like, I can't deal.
Yeah, that I think that's where the strain was starting to become apparent. There's only so much I could deal with a little guy running around yelling, "I want me gold" over and over again.
So at the end of the movie, the leprechaun tempts Scott, who's also turning into a leprechaun. Because why not? Oh my God, why not? The leprechaun tempts Scott with the gold and kind of says that they can share the gold. But with persuading from Tammy, because she's, beautiful and he's got all the crushes, he burns the gold with a flamethrower because, of course, there's a flamethrower sitting around. And this,
how would melting gold down destroy it?
I don't know. And I can't believe just one shot with a flamethrower would do it. But this causes the leprechaun to burst into flames, and Scott turns back into a human. Mind you, in this scene where he does this, Tammy has that medallion from the beginning of the movie. They specifically grab that. They go to the dumb thrift store, grab that medallion to use it, and it never comes back. She gets knocked down, and it falls on the ground and rolls away, and that's it. That's the end of it. It's like, whatever.
I don't think that they were really going for the fine-tooth comb approach when they were writing multiple drafts of this script, sir.
Yeah, probably not. The director of this one, Brian Trenchard Smith, said that these are pieces of guilty pleasure popcorn, which if you approach them in the right way, can give you a satisfying 90 minutes of entertainment, preferably around the six-pack and the bong. That's what he said about his work.
Are you saying that's my problem? I need to be completely fucked up to watch these movies?
Well, I mean, it couldn't hurt, right?
Well, yeah, because I have to remember him to talk about him.
It wouldn't surprise me if, like, the Insane Clown Posse, these were their favorite movies of all time.
You know what? That's right around when they started to take root.
Yeah.
Mid to late 90s.
Leprechaun, fucking legendary. Love that shit. Ugh.
Well, didn't they talk about rainbows in that one song?
Yeah, I think so. Ugh. Leprechaun 4's in space.
Because why the fuck not?
Why the fuck not? Apparently, according to Entertainment Weekly, the film was inspired by a gag poster, which was mocked up for a Christmas party, and combined an image of Warwick Davis's Leprechaun with the 1995 Tom Hanks movie Apollo 13. There was a tagline on this poster that said, "Houston, we have a problem." And the producer of Leprechaun in Space said, "We thought that was funny, so they decided to make this movie, Leprechaun 4.
Fucking morons.
In space." This is probably the worst one, in my estimation. Well, no, it's not, but it's really bad.
I was going to say, I can think of one that's worse,
Yeah,
but go on.
There is one that's worse. This one is really bad, though. So a group of soldiers are floating through space, tracking an alien who has disrupted a mining corporation and cost them billions of dollars. Of course, the alien in question is the Leprechaun because he's in space. Why not? He's trying to woo a princess to become a king so that the entire universe is his to command. Oh, boy. This is really bad on multiple levels.
This is like the story a little child tells themselves while laying in bed to entertain themselves.
Yeah.
Only probably with more plot holes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in this one, and it's funny because you'll see this happen again in Jason Goes to Hell. The soldiers gang up on the Leprechaun and blow him to pieces. But in this one, the Leprechaun's eyes open up and he starts watching them. And a soldier decides that it'd be a great idea to piss on the corpse of this Leprechaun. But it was actually a bad idea because some magic travels up his pee stream. And later, when he's trying to have sex with Heidi, the Tool Time girl from Home Improvement, he gives birth to a fully formed Leprechaun right from his dick. So that was bad.
So now, is that the same Leprechaun? Or is it like a whole new Leprechaun spawned?
You know, isn't that the thing?
Yeah, because I was genuinely wondering, even though it's clearly Warwick Davis in the first, 6 of these movies?
Yeah.
Is it still the same character?
I think it's supposed to be.
Well, that makes my headcanon a whole lot less interesting.
It would be a lot more fun if one of them was called Leprechaun War and there was just a bunch of leprechauns like fighting each other. I'd like that.
You know, I can't believe they haven't done that movie.
Well, I just wrote it for them, so give me the rights and royalties right now. Actually, in the Wikipedia pages, they all list Warwick Davis as playing Lubdan the Leprechaun, and I never heard him once say the Leprechaun's name. So
Lubdan?
Yeah, Lubdan, D-A-N. Yeah, so then the Leprechaun's back, and he's still trying to woo the princess. And his plan is to wet her, bed her, and bury her all on the same day because he hates the word share. He doesn't want to share anything because he's greedy. Don't you get it? These are morality plays about greed. Don't you understand? Don't you get it?
So are you saying that this is just a commentary on capitalism?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's high art is what it is.
I owe you an apology, Warwick.
Yes. I'm not even going to go through the rest of the Leprechaun in Space because you should ignore it completely.
Yeah.
The next one is Leprechaun in the Hood. It's Leprechaun versus Ice-T.
Yes.
Ice-T plays a character named Mac Daddy Onassis because he's a pimp and he owns asses. I'm not making that up either. I'm not.
I don't know who these movies are aimed at. Are they aimed at little kids or stoners?
Well, apparently, for whatever reason, they made this movie because the Leprechaun movies appealed to an urban audience. So they decided to capitalize on that by having Leprechaun go to the hood.
Okay, fair game, but still, little kids are stoners. I don't get it.
Yeah, stoners. I don't. I remember having a friend when I was young, when these came out, and he was obsessed with these movies. He would go around saying, "Oh, I want me gold."
Oh God,
he did, and I was like, "Okay, we're not friends."
Did you eventually
anymore.
keep your distance from him?
Yeah, we lost touch, and here I am watching these movies. So I guess
who's laughing now?
Yeah, I guess he got the final laugh. Damn it. Oh boy! So in this one, Ice-T and his friends stumble across the Leprechaun, and he's got the medallion around his neck from the third one. So there's kind of continuity, I guess. So he's a statue, and there's a bunch of gold in front of the Leprechaun. But the only thing Ice-T takes is Leprechaun's gold flute, which, okay, he's got a gold flute now, and it makes whoever listens to this flute, they do whoever the person that blows on the flute. How do you explain this? It's like a Pied Piper's flute. You get it?
Yeah, it's kind of like mind control.
Yeah, they get hypnotized and they'll do whatever you say. And I'm like, why doesn't he just use that to conquer the goddamn world? Like, why aren't you just blowing on that flute constantly? I don't get it.
Well, not to mention the fact that isn't there? Yeah, there's the whole record plot, the plot where they have a record demo that they're trying to make. Why doesn't he just use it that way?
Yeah, so these young rappers, led by Postmaster P, and the P is because he delivers positive messages in his raps. He doesn't want to be a gangsta rapper.
Good on him.
Good on him. So when he goes to Ice-T, who's got all the money, Ice-T says, "Oh, you're pretty good, but why don't you be harder?" And he says, "No, we're positive." And Mac Daddy Onassis, because he owns asses, says, "Get out of here." And if Ice-T tells you to get out of there, you get out of there. But then they decide to come back and steal from Ice-T. And which
is never a good move, children.
It's not a good idea. So they steal the magic flute, they steal the gold, and they steal the medallion off the stone statue of the Leprechaun. So he comes back to life, and there we go. The other thing about this movie is why I think it appeals to stoners. The Leprechaun loves to smoke weed in this movie.
Yes, he does.
It becomes a plot point, in fact, as does the fact that he's got a weakness to four-leaf clovers.
Yes, he does.
Here's where it gets really, really dumb. So the big stoner character in the movie, the sidekick character, has a brilliant idea of making a joint made of four-leaf clover because he read in a book that the Leprechaun will lose his powers if he's hit with the essence of a four-leaf clover. At the same time, the Leprechaun seems to be running a brothel and fucking all these women to death, which is a line of dialogue. So the guys decide the best way to get to the Leprechaun is to visit him in his brothel and dress up in drag to get close to him.
Makes sense.
It becomes a Bugs Bunny cartoon all of a sudden. So they gain access the brothel, and the Leprechaun smokes the joint. They steal his golden flute. And then the big doofus friend gets shot and killed by Ice-T, and it should be a real emotional moment, but it's made completely ridiculous because everybody's wearing lipstick and in drag. You're like, one emotional part of the movie is ruined from this ridiculousness. Did you have
real quick? We were talking about, you just mentioned the big doofus friend. Do you remember the text that I sent you while I was watching this?
Yes. Yeah.
About who that guy looks eerily similar to?
Yep.
Dustin from Stranger Things.
Yeah, they might be related. We don't know.
I'm kind of wondering.
I'm not the biggest Stranger Things fan, honestly.
Fair enough. I could see where it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like it.
I like it, but it's not something I just...
I'm not obsessed over it like a lot of folks are. It's like, I'm not going to spend $200 on a can of new Coke because of it.
In the end, Postmaster P and Ice-T engage in a shootout. The Leprechaun ends up blowing a hole in Ice-T. And as he blows a hole in Ice-T, the medallion flies up in the air and you see Warwick Davis's scared face, and you think it's going to land over on top of him, but no, flash forward, and Postmaster P is a rap star, but the leprechaun appears to be his manager. And then the end of the movie features a leprechaun rapping, which is something.
Yes.
Ugh.
Again, with all of the stereotypes of the day.
Yeah, God, so bad. So bad. It was around this time that the idea of a, well, I guess it was probably a little bit later, but I'm going to talk about it right now. It was suggested that because of the success of Freddy versus Jason, so it was, I guess this would have been the early 2000s, that Candyman versus Leprechaun become a thing.
Oh my God. Oh, that would have been so bad.
You have Candyman, which the original movie is like a socially conscious,
Exactly, yes.
epic, amazing horror movie. And you have the Leprechaun, which is just bullshit. And why or how those two characters would ever come together, well, I don't know. Tony Todd was told of this idea and asked if he wanted to do it, and he said no. He said, I was never interested in a versus movie. Another studio actually suggested to me a Candyman versus Leprechaun at one point. I'd kick him in his ass. Look, it's about profitability. Most of these movies now are reinventions, but there's no longevity. I could live forever with the thought of what we did with the first two Candymans just fine.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Tomko, we will be covering the Candyman movies. Don't worry.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
I knew you were scared. I know. I just wanted to reassure you.
No, I'm all in favor for that.
I'm very curious to see what Jordan Peele will do with the Candyman. Which,
as am I.
It's not a reboot. It's more of a sequel from what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
At least a sequel to the first one. So we'll see what happens. What happens in the Leprechaun franchise? Back to the hood. Back to the hood.
I have to admit, I got a tiny morsel of enjoyment out of this one.
Did you?
I can't remember the actor's name. Hell, if I can remember the character's name, but he was kind of like the comedic relief. He was one of the main characters in the first season of Weeds. He was the shining star in this. He was the only one that was watchable.
Yeah. The main character is a girl named Emily, and she really has no personality at all, other than she seems to be all about the hood rat guy that does all the bad things that he shouldn't, and they apparently used to date or whatever. It really doesn't matter.
No. I mean, it should be said that by this point, they're spinning their tires. They're doing a lot of the same gags that they did from previous movies, only kind of changing the window dressing again. The same plots are kind of, being repeated. It's not a very well thought out film series. You could tell that they're just, kind of riding the wave of mediocrity straight into the ground until the cow just cannot give any more milk at this point.
Honestly, the best part of this movie is the most original thing that's happened in the franchise, and that's an awesomely done animated sequence at the beginning that tells the origin of the leprechaun, finally. And you find out that the leprechauns were forest sprites. They're supposed to protect the kingdom's gold from invaders and evil spirits. After the king's reign ended, all the leprechauns went back to the forest except for one, and that's the leprechaun we get because he just liked being a bad boy too much, I guess. This one, yeah, it's about friends. They find gold. They spend it in bad ways, and it comes back to bite them. And I feel like there's a lot more heavy-handedness in this one, with the leprechaun actually lecturing them about greed and stuff at some points. Like, okay, all right. There's a goddamn psychic in it that seems to have real magical powers too. It's really whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that they were at the end of their rope with this one.
Yeah, at the end of this one, he gets shot a bunch of times with some 4-leaf clover bullets because the punk ass dude had hollow tips and he filled them with clover.
Which I don't know if that would even. I mean, when I don't know a lot about guns, but I know that you can't fuck with bullets because if you plug the chamber at all, doesn't the entire gun like explode in your hand?
Yeah, you would. Is it?
And again, I shouldn't be fucking nitpicking a movie about a demonic leprechaun, but still.
To your point, the gun actually does jam because the Rory guy, the gangster guy, shoots him a bunch of times, but before he can finish him off, the gun jams and he like heals himself.
By this point, I completely checked out mentally. I think that may have been why I just kind of latched onto the nugget that was that one supporting actor's performance.
Warwick Davis was in a sitcom called Life's Too Short, apparently.
Yes, I keep hearing really good things about that, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out. But apparently Johnny Depp filmed a cameo in that series. And yes, Warwick Davis pitched the idea to him of a Pirates of the Caribbean versus Leprechaun movie, which never happened. Which, how would it? You've got a Disney movie.
I was just thinking.
It's kind of like, I think maybe the characters might work. And like, if anything, that makes more sense than the Candyman. But tonally, that would never work.
Yes, Disney is going to take what at the time was their golden goose.
Yeah.
And cross it over with a movie that appeals to little kids, okay, and stoners.
Right. Yeah, and like I don't know what the market would be for that at all. Like it would just be confused people that were going to see Johnny Depp be crazy.
Which sometimes is worth it. Not often, though.
No. I mean, yeah, I'll give him the first Pirates movie. Oh, wow, look what he's doing. That's funny and fun and great. And then there was like 4 more.
Every other Pirates movie.
Yeah, and you're like, oh no, what's happening? Why is this still happening?
And then you got his performances in those Kevin Smith horror movies. And fuck you if you say we're going to talk about yoga hosers.
I thought about doing the films of Kevin Smith as a whole at one point.
Mm.
But Yoga Hosers is a disaster. Oh my God, is that a disaster? I still...
Are you saying that a straight to Netflix movie made by a completely stoned out of his gourd Kevin Smith called Yoga Hosers is anything short of a masterpiece?
Well, I would call it a masterpiece until the little sausage clones of Adolf Hitler enter the movie. And then I just have to be like, no, I'm out. And as you can tell, I watch a lot of crap, but there's some limits to my crapdom.
Yeah. And I used to be a huge Kevin Smith fan, but yeah, right around the time when he had his little breakdown after Zack and Miri is when I checked out.
Yeah, I was a huge Kevin Smith fan. He's the reason I love movies so much. He's the reason I love podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worship the dude, but yeah. And again, I don't know what the breakdown was. I mean, I heard the podcast and I know why he had a breakdown about Zack and Miri, but Zack and Miri was a great movie, I thought.
It was a fucking amazing movie.
And he decided it was too much like Clerks, and I'm like, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I don't think it was too much like Clerks, really, but I mean, whatever.
From what I understand, it was projected to make X amount of money, and then when it made Y, which was, not only did it make less money, but it was the first time that a Seth Rogen movie pretty much bombed.
Yeah, but
he kind of had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah,
and then made Tusk.
Yes, which was based on a podcast he did.
Yes,
which I listened to, and I remember listening to it and enjoying it. And then when I heard he was making a movie based on that, I was like, what? Why?
Oh, Kevin.
Oh, Kevin. Oh, no, Kevin.
But anyways, back to Leprechaun.
Back to Leprechaun. I don't want to go back to Leprechaun.
I was just thinking to myself, yeah, I kind of would rather talk about Kevin Smith, but we got a job to do.
I don't want to talk about Leprechaun because we're about to talk about the worst Leprechaun movie.
And that's saying something.
This is the absolute worst. It's called Leprechaun Origins. It was made by WWE Films.
Yeah, I didn't know that when I clicked play, and as soon as I saw that logo, I was immediately pissed.
Yeah.
And then when I saw who was playing the Leprechaun, I just kind of, just get it over with.
Let the people know who plays the Leprechaun in this movie.
I can't remember his full legal name, and I'm not interested enough to look it up, but it's the character by the name of Hornswoggle. And the only reason Hornswoggle is in the WWE is because Mr. McMahon finds little people funny.
Yeah.
Not in a laughing with sort of way either. More of a laughing at offensive, cringy sort of way.
Yeah. The thing about WWE studios, a lot of those movies aren't that great.
You don't say.
However, Fighting with My Family that came out last year is really, really good. So they have the potential to do great things. However,
if they can get out of their own way, maybe.
However,
this is not one of those great things.
This is not one of those great things. So I read that the producer of this movie was a big Leprechaun fan. Huge fan, like the movies. Okay, cool.
So make a Leprechaun movie.
Yeah, why'd you do this? Why did you reinvent the wheel and then reinvent it where it didn't work as well? And that's saying something.
Well, I told you my theory as far as why they shifted tones in this. Because right before this movie came out was the reboot of Evil Dead.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And tonally, at least, maybe not in terms of writing, acting, directing, logic. They don't have those in common, but they do have the same kind of tone. And so I think that they were just trying to piggyback onto the success of this. They wanted to have some kind of name recognition. Obviously, they couldn't do Evil Dead because even if those rights were available, they wouldn't be able to afford it. And I would like to think that Sam Raimi would have better taste than to get into bed with Vince McMahon.
Right.
So they decided, hey, why don't we look for something that we can afford? And lo and behold, Leprechaun.
It's kind of if Leprechaun was Jaws, because you never see the Leprechaun really. He's always
No, you don't.
Running through weeds and tall grass, and it's from his point of view. Yeah. So
and again, I know I've asked this question probably 5 times for every entry in this movie, but who the fuck was this movie made for? It's not going to appeal to fans of the campy predecessors. It's not going to appeal to stoners because I'm assuming that a stoner isn't going to want to watch a gory horror movie like this. Sure as fuck isn't going to appeal to little kids.
Yeah, it's not it's not a good movie. Like the college, it's about a group of college kids that are on a college trip, and they're not likable characters, and they are told of this like historical, I don't know, artifact that one of the locals knows where it is, and he offers to take them on a day hike to see it. And one of them is a history buff, so she's all about it. Well, she's actually, what the guy is actually doing, spoiler, is rounding up the kids to sacrifice them to the leprechaun, because apparently the leprechaun terrorizes the village if he doesn't do this. And
is this based on historical accuracy, sir?
Yeah. So apparently the old man and a group of his friends went into the cavern where the leprechaun used to live, and it was a gold mine, and he took all the gold out. And so now the leprechaun is mad. And apparently when you take its gold, you have to make amends until the debt has been paid. So he just sacrifices tourists to the leprechaun. And that's the entire premise of this movie. Then there's gore, and you're
and it's another thing is it's filmed so darkly.
Yeah,
And I'm not talking about the tone. I'm talking about the fact that I can't see what the fuck's going on my screen.
yeah. It's some of these movies. I understand that they happen at night and you want it full of shadows and shit, but the viewer still needs to see stuff. When I look at a screen and it's mainly just black, I might as well just listen to a podcast because I know something's happening, but I'm not sure what. So at the end of the movie, there is a throwback to the original. The main character, Sophia, is cornered by the leprechaun. She throws some gold coins in the air. The leprechaun watches them, and she chops off its head with a knife and says, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms," which is a nod to the first movie, the only nod you get. And then she runs through the field, and apparently there's other leprechauns chasing after her, and that's how it ends. And you're like, oh boy, that was a waste of my life.
Yeah, I'm just picturing the announce team on WWE Raw having to enthusiastically endorse this movie.
Yeah.
With a straight face while McMahon's yelling in their earpiece, and I would love to see that.
All right, dear listener, you did it. You made it to the end. There's one more. It's called Leprechaun Returns, and I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a step in the right direction. I thought it was...
I don't know if enjoy is the right word.
Tolerate?
There you go.
Yeah.
It didn't make me want to stick my face into a lawnmower.
I enjoyed the fact that there was
continuity.
There was continuity. It referenced previous movies. I enjoyed the actor that played the leprechaun. I thought his line delivery and the accent he gave there was something to it that I found very charming. And for a sci-fi original movie, the special effects in this were pretty great.
Yes, they outdid themselves on this movie.
Mm-hmm. Some of the
now
effects...
that's not an endorsement.
No. Okay, so this one we get a replay of how the original movie ended with the leprechaun going down the well and dying and whatever. And we start with a brand new character named Lila Jenkins coming to town to, she's moving into town because she's going into college there. And the old house she's moving into is a sorority house now, but it used to be the place where her grandfather and her mother lived. She is Jennifer Aniston's daughter. And we have Ozzy from the original movie that looked like he's lived quite a life. He looks pretty bad in this movie. You find out.
I like that he has PTSD over the leprechaun incident.
Yes, he does. That was pretty good. He finds out that that Lila is Tori's daughter, and he's very scared of the house she's going to. And of course, she starts hearing voices coming from the wells, and she's living in this house with other sorority sisters that are big hippies, really. Ozzy dropped his phone because he runs the only taxi service in the town.
Taxi service and painters.
Yeah. He dropped his phone at the place. He goes back. He starts hearing a noise in the well. He looks down at it. He's sprayed by a geyser of water. He starts driving home, starts feeling sick, pukes up a four-leaf clover, and then he knows that he's doomed. And the leprechaun pretty much rips out of his stomach and reclaims the lost gold piece that Ozzy had swallowed all those years ago, and proclaims that for 25 years he's been locked in that well. He's got a lot of killing to do, and it's insinuated that the only reason he was able to do that was because of the gold coin in Ozzy's stomach. And I appreciated all of that. Just because there was continuity. And I liked the Lila character. I thought she was decent. And she reveals to the sorority house that her mom had a lot of mental health issues and thought monsters were always trying to get her, so she never left the house.
Which, again, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense is that Lila starts seeing dead Ozzy around. She starts seeing his ghost for whatever reason. And then the leprechaun attacks, and he wants the rest of his goddamn gold.
And he's also making sure to take care of shoes.
Yes,
I don't know why, but that little touch that was carried over from the first movie, I appreciated it.
I am glad you brought that up. That was my favorite parts of the first movie. The fact that he was a cobbler, the leprechaun, and so he
was obsessed with nice shoes and keeping them clean.
They actually distracted him at one point by throwing a bunch of shoes in the yard, and he was running and shining them all and admiring them. I thought that was clever. Yes, in this movie, that picks back up, and I appreciated that too. Overall, it's whatever. What did you think about this one?
Overall, I would say it's kind of like getting kicked in the nuts and then just being grateful that the other person's foot only makes contact with your left nut.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I don't recommend it, but it could be worse.
In this movie, the girls have been using the clover patch to make clover smoothies. So
because why not?
Why not? You got any weeds in your backyard? Grind it up in a blender and drink it. So they hook a hose up to their supply of clover and pump the leprechaun full of it.
Yes, because they established that the only way you can truly kill a leprechaun is if you completely destroy every little bit of the body.
Yes. So
which would explain why the fucker keeps coming back.
Yeah. So they pump him full of this stuff. He explodes, but then his little pieces turn into little miniature leprechauns.
And they meld together, yes.
They meld together, and then they electrocute him by making him stand on his own gold. And he catches on fire and starts melting, and he's grabbing at Lila, and she says, "I've got a limerick for you. Eat a dick, ass Baggins." And then kicks him in the face, and that's it. That was the big fuck you line. Then the house collapses and explodes, and the geyser of green blood sprays from the ruins of the house. And then the next day, he's walking along the side of the road and hitches a ride on a truck. Like it makes no sense.
What was it? He was going to Branson, Missouri, or some place like that, because that's where they had spent all the gold.
Yeah. Yep. That's where he was going. Like he gave up his vendetta with those girls, and he's just going. He's out of there. No rhyme or reason to it. It's like whatever. However, if they kept that tone up and made another one and put it on Sci-Fi, I'd watch it one time because I
would be morbidly curious.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give my official recommendation.
Okay.
If you get home from the bar, you still have your friends around, and you're not ready to go to bed yet because you've still got another 12-pack to kill, watch the first one, watch Leprechaun Returns, and then go the fuck home.
I agree with that, but I'll add in Leprechaun 3, the Las Vegas one, because I enjoyed that quite a bit.
If you have a head injury while you're at the bar, maybe.
If you get bopped over the head with one of those glass bottles.
Yes.
In an interview, Warwick Davis said that his days playing the Leprechaun are might not be quite over. At one point, I read an interview where he said he always thought the Leprechaun movies would lead to a Leprechaun series, which would be so annoying. Who could bear with that? Who could even deal? But the creator of the original Leprechaun movie said, I met with Warwick, and he said, my fans want another horror franchise. I came up with the unique concept, and the title is Vamprechaun. We've got a leprechaun who gets bitten by a vampire, and he turns into this little tiny Vamprechaun. He's now a half vampire, half leprechaun. He bites women on the ankle because he can't reach their neck.
I'm out.
Warwick loved the idea. It's in development now, and we're close to getting the green light. I did do a follow-up on this interview, and there was some sort of legal trouble. I guess the lawyer that he got to consult with on Vamprechaun tried to screw him out of the idea. So the movie's in litigation. We may never see it, and that's a shame, isn't it?
I'm out. No, I did my time. I'm not watching Warwick Davis as an ankle biter.
Okay, fair enough. That should be the name of it, ankle biter. Fuck the Vamprechaun.
That is actually a better name than Vamprechaun. Yes.
Yeah, ankle biter. Oh, geez, you sold me. Good job. Oh boy.
Again, just give me my royalty checks, folks.
Yep. Hopefully, we sold you on recommending this show to a good friend that loves questionable movies of ill repute. If so, please recommend. Tell the people where they can find you, Mr. Tomko.
You can find me every Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with a new episode of a little show that we call Jake and Tom Conquer the World. It has been described as the drunken ramblings of a couple of geeks that you overhear from the other side of the bar. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me at The Drunken Dork on Twitter. Beyond that, on Facebook, you can join our little group called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
And you can find me on a big dumb comedy show called Miserable Retail Slave. It's been described as useless and enjoyable. Which, sure, why not?
Hey, at least you have the time. Somebody's taking the time to describe you.
That's true.
That means that they're listening.
It may be useless, but at least it's enjoyable. And we can all
Yes.
use enjoyable things in this time. You can find me on Twitter at mretailslave. Join our Facebook group. Search Miserable Retail Slave on the Facebook.com. I do need to make a page or a group for this podcast, and I still haven't, but I'll get to it. Coming up on this program, we've got Stunt Rock coming up. Are you excited for Stunt Rock?
Stunt Rock!
Stunt Rock. And we've convinced old Jake there to come on the program.
Yes,
Tomko's
we actually
F.
have a slew of things that he's interested in. We're going to be doing Ghost Rider 1 and 2, as well as the straight-to-TV Ewok movies starring Warwick fucking Davis.
Yeah. So, and then we promised Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia and Straw Dogs. And
Yes. And the other one that I was going to bring up to you, have you ever heard of the movie Super?
I have, with Rainn Wilson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by James Gunn. Have you seen it?
A long time ago, yeah.
It's fucking amazing, and nobody talks about that shit.
Yeah.
That, I think, is worthy of a discussion if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, we can put that on the list. We've got a big list.
What else were you bringing to the table?
I want to do, I don't know. I have a whole list of movies that we need to cover at some point, but we'll get to them.
We're going to have the time, folks.
We're going to have the time. There might be a lot more bonus episodes coming soon. So.
Oh, and we got something special coming up for Halloween, too.
Yes. Halloween's going to be a big month. So if you like this podcast, you will love the month of Halloween.
Yes.
Yes. Until next time, I'm Randy. That's Tomko, and we will see ya.
See ya.